Your worry has been stealing from you all day, and you handed it the keys yourself. Right now, in the middle of your best work, a small voice is rehearsing a conversation that hasn't happened yet. You feel it pulling at the edges of your focus, and you think you're just being responsible. By the end of this, you'll know how to take that thief and put it on a leash, in one room, at 1 hour, so the rest of your day finally belongs to you again. Here is what's really happening when you worry while you work. Your attention is a single beam of light. It can land on the page in front of you, or it can land on the imagined disaster 3 weeks out. It can't do both at full strength. So every time a worry surfaces, and you deal with it for a few seconds, you're dimming the beam on your actual life to feed a future that may never arrive. And the worst part, the worry never gets solved. It just gets fed. Think about the last time you tried to create something that mattered. A plan, a piece of writing, a decision that needed your whole mind. You sat down ready. Then a thought drifted in, that unanswered message, that bill, that look someone gave you. You didn't choose to engage it. It chose you, and for the next 10 minutes, your hands kept moving while your mind quietly left the building. That gap between your moving hands and your absent mind is the most expensive thing you own. So why do we keep letting it open? Because we've been taught a lie about worry. We believe that if we worry about something constantly, we're somehow protecting ourselves. That vigilance equals control. So the mind, trying to be loyal, keeps the worry running in the background, like an app you forgot to close, draining the battery all day for a problem you can't solve at this hour anyway. The ancient teachers understood consciousness as the one true creative power. Whatever you give your sustained attention to, you breathe life into. Neville Goddard put it plainly, the world is your consciousness pushed outward, made visible. Your inner conversations become your outer circumstances. So picture what you're actually building when you spend your creative hours rehearsing fear. You're impressing the disaster deeper into the very mind that shapes your tomorrow. That's the trap. The worry pretends to be protection while it quietly becomes prophecy. So what's the way out? To stop worrying. That command has never worked for any human who ever lived. Tell yourself, don't think about it, and you've just thought about it. The mind only hears the thing, never the word that comes before it. The way out is older and stranger than suppression. It's containment. Imagine your worries as guests who keep wandering into every room of your house at every hour, opening the fridge during your dinner, sitting on your desk while you work, lying across your bed when you're trying to rest. You'd refuse that from an actual person, yet you allow it from your own thoughts daily. Containment says something simple to those guests. There is one room, and there is 1 hour, and that's where we meet. This is what some call a worry period, and the practice is plain. You choose a single block of time, 15 minutes, maybe 20. Same time each day if you can manage it, ideally well before sleep. And during that window, you worry on purpose. Fully, deliberately, you bring every anxious thought into that room, and you let it speak. The strange thing is what happens to the worries during the other 23 hours. Here's the part most people refuse to believe until they try it. When a worry shows up at 2 in the afternoon and you say to it calmly, "I see you and we have an appointment at 6, something shifts. The thought loosens its grip. Because you honored it, you gave it a place to be heard, so it no longer has to scream to get your attention. The mind worries louder when it fears being ignored. Give it a guaranteed hearing, and the volume drops on its own. There's real ground under this. Researchers studying chronic worry found that people who scheduled a dedicated worry period reported lower anxiety across their days. The mechanism is elegant. A worry that arrives mid-task is asking one question: will you take this seriously? When you've already promised it a time, the answer is yes, and the thought settles. The brain drops into a calmer frequency once it trusts the system holding the worries, and if you play music retuned to 432 Hz through Attune, link in the description, during those clear hours, the lower pitch sits right at that quieter baseline, giving the silence between tasks an actual texture to rest on. Trust. That's the word the whole practice turns on. You're teaching your own mind that it can trust you to handle things, in their proper time, in their proper place. Now let's talk about what this protects, because the worry itself is only half the story. The other half is the thing you're trying to build with your life. Creative states are fragile, the good ones anyway. That place where ideas connect and time disappears and you produce work you're actually proud of, that state takes minutes to enter and one stray thought to shatter. You know this. You felt yourself climbing into focus only to have a single anxious thought knock you back down the ladder. Then you spend another 10 minutes climbing again. Worry contaminates the creative state the way a single drop of ink clouds a glass of water. The water was clear, one drop, and the whole glass changes color. And you've been adding drops all day without noticing. So the worry period does something beautiful. It builds a wall around your clear water. It says, between these hours, no ink. The anxious thoughts can wait in their room, and your creative hours stay clean enough to actually do something with. What would your work look like with 8 uncontaminated hours instead of 8 cloudy ones? You already have the hours. You've just been letting them get muddy. Let me show you how the practice actually runs, because the details matter more than the idea. When a worry surfaces outside your appointed time, you do 3 things, and they take about 4 seconds. You notice it. You name it, silently, money worry, that conversation, the health thing, and you postpone it. 6 o'clock. We'll handle it then. Then you return your attention to your work, gently, the way you'd guide a wandering child back to the table. You'll have to do this 20 times the first day, maybe 40. That's normal. The mind is testing whether the appointment is real. By the 3rd or 4th day, something changes. The worries start showing up less often during the day because they've learned the appointment holds. And here's the part that surprises everyone. When 6 o'clock arrives and you sit down to worry on purpose, half the things on your list have lost their teeth. The catastrophe that felt urgent at noon looks almost silly at 6. You sit there, ready to agonize, and find there's barely anything left to agonize about. The fire was real. The fuel was your attention. Take away the fuel, and you watch how quickly it burns down to ash. But what about the worries that survive? The ones still standing at 6 o'clock, still genuinely heavy. Those are the ones worth your time. And now you have the clarity to actually meet them, because your mind isn't split across them and your work. You're fully present with the fear, which means you can finally do the one thing scattered worry always blocks. Think. Worry and thinking feel similar from the inside, yet they're opposites. Worry circles, thinking moves forward. Worry asks, what if, over and over, and leaves it hanging. Thinking asks, what then, and builds a step. In your contained hour, you can convert worry into thinking. You can ask of each fear, is this in my control? If yes, what's the one next action? If no, what would it mean to set it down? There's a quiet cost to skipping this. Most people carry the same handful of worries for years, dragging them from breakfast to bed, and never once sit down to actually finish a thought about any of them. The fear gets rehearsed 1,000 times and resolved 0. That's the cruelty of loose worry. It gives you all the suffering of the problem and none of the solving. A worry period flips that ratio. You suffer for 20 deliberate minutes, and in exchange, you get a clear head for the rest of the waking day. Nobody who tries it honestly goes back. And notice what this does to your evenings. So many people lie awake at midnight while their mind plays the same loop because the worries that got postponed all day finally corner them in the dark when they're least able to fight back. By moving your worry period into daylight, into a chair, with a notebook and a clock, you starve the midnight loop of its fuel. The thoughts already had their hearing. They have nothing left to say at 2 in the morning. Sleep returns, not because you forced it, but because the room where worry lives is closed for the night. There's a teaching in this older than any anxiety study. The mind is like a garden, and attention is the water. Whatever you water grows. Spend your hours watering fear, and you raise a harvest of it. Spend them watering the work, the vision, the version of your life you actually want to inhabit. And that's what takes root instead. The worry period is simply you deciding where the hose points for most of the day. James Allen wrote that we are made or unmade by ourselves, that the thoughts we choose and encourage shape the conditions we live in. He meant this literally. Your sustained inner attention is the soil your circumstances grow from. So when you postpone a worry, you're doing something far larger than managing stress. You're choosing what to plant. This is the inner work nobody tells you about. It's plain and unglamorous. It's the daily discipline of catching a thought, naming it, and walking it back to its room hundreds of times until the habit holds. There'll be days you forget, days the worry wins and floods the whole house. You begin again the next morning. A bad day bends the practice, only quitting breaks it. And there's a deeper layer here, the one the old teachers pointed at. When you decide which thoughts get to occupy your mind and when, you are doing the most fundamental act of self-mastery there is. You are governing your own consciousness instead of being governed by it. The mind makes a wonderful servant and a terrible master. The worry period is how you reclaim the throne, one appointment at a time. Consider what you're really saying when you contain your worry. You're declaring that your attention is sacred, that the hours you spend creating, building, loving, living are too valuable to surrender to fears that could be handled in 20 focused minutes. You're drawing a line between the life you're living and the disasters you're imagining, and you're choosing again and again to stand on the side of the life. Think of the hours this gives back over a single month. 20 minutes of deliberate worry a day against the dozens of stolen minutes you used to lose to it, scattered across every task. The math is almost embarrassing in your favor. You trade a small fence loss for an enormous quiet gain, and the only price is the discipline to keep the fence standing. The person who lets worry run loose all day is simply someone who's never been shown that the leash exists. Now you've been shown. The leash is a time and a place. The discipline is the gentle, relentless act of postponing. The reward is a mind that works for you during the hours that count, and a worry that finally knows its appointment. So tonight, choose your hour. Tomorrow, when the first worry comes for your focus, look at it the way a doorman looks at someone arriving early. Polite, unmoved. We're not open yet. Come back at 6. Then turn back to the work in front of you and watch what your undivided mind can build when it finally gets to stay in one room. Your worries will always knock. Starting tomorrow, you decide when to answer the door.